Most people think the sea between Eastern Europe and Western Asia is actually black. In reality, it's green. Others believe the moon can spark earthquakes. And from headlines claiming the Maldives will vanish, to the idea that Africa is just one giant jungle. The truth is far stranger than the myth, and today we're breaking down 25 geography myths billions still believe. But all of them are wrong. So let's start unraveling these myths one by one. Beginning with number 25. Despite the name, the Black Sea isn't black at all. Its waters are blue or green depending on depth and algae, just like any other sea. The black comes from old navigation traditions where colors represented directions, and black meant north, not color. And if a sea that isn't black blew your mind, number 24 is even wilder. A nation people think will vanish forever. It's a dramatic headline, but far from guaranteed. While sea levels are rising, the Maldives aren't simply sinking. Coral islands naturally shift and rebuild, new land is being created, and major engineering projects are raising islands higher. The nation is vulnerable, but not scheduled for total extinction by 2050. Let's jump to number 23. A myth about an entire continent people still picture like a movie set. Most people picture Africa as one endless green rainforest, but that image couldn't be more wrong. The truth? Only about 10% of Africa is jungle. The continent is a patchwork of deserts, savannas, mountains, wetlands, megacities, and even snowy peaks like Mount Kilimanjaro. Africa isn't a jungle continent. It's a mosaic of landscapes more diverse than Europe and the US combined. Before you imagine Africa drifting into the ocean, let's head to number 22, where a myth claims an entire state is literally floating. It sounds poetic, Hawaii drifting like a giant tropical boat, but reality is far more dramatic. Hawaii is actually the tip of enormous volcanoes rising over 9 kilometers from the ocean floor, anchored deep into the Pacific Plate. These islands don't float. They're rooted to the Earth's crust like massive geological skyscrapers. Now, from solid volcanic giants to a city that seems to be sinking. Let's slide into number 21. Sea level rise plays a role, but Venice isn't sinking just because the oceans are rising. It's also dropping from below. Centuries of groundwater extraction caused the city to slowly subside, and the soft sediment it was built on continues to compress. Venice isn't just drowning, it's settling. But speaking of sinking and rising, number 20 blames the moon for something much bigger. The moon's gravity moves oceans, but not tectonic plates. Studies show lunar pull can influence tiny tidal stresses, but it cannot trigger major earthquakes. Fault lines rupture due to immense pressure within Earth's crust, not because the moon happens to be full tonight. And while we're clearing cosmic myths, let's drop into number 19, where an entire continent gets reduced to a single stereotype. Africa is the most genetically diverse place on Earth, with people ranging from ivory-skinned, Amazigh in North Africa, to the copper-toned sand people of the South. Skin shades vary across thousands of ethnic groups and climates. Reducing a whole continent to one skin tone erases the deepest human diversity on the planet. Now let's move from people to landscapes with number 18, where the world's biggest desert is seriously misunderstood. Movies show it as infinite golden dunes, but dunes make up only 20 to 25% of the Sahara. The rest is rocky plateaus, mountains, gravel plains, grass pockets, and even oases full of life. The Sahara isn't empty. It's alive with ancient trade routes, nomadic cultures, and hidden biodiversity. But if that didn't surprise you, wait till you hear number 17, which predicts the Sahara swallowing Europe. The Sahara grows and shrinks in cycles, driven by rainfall patterns, not a one-way expansion. Scientists predict it could even shrink again as climate phases shift. Europe isn't about to become a desert. The Sahara has expanded and contracted for thousands of years without engulfing continents. Staying in dry lands, let's slide into number 16, about a salty legend that refuses to die. The Dead Sea is incredibly salty, but it's not the saltiest. That title goes to places like Lake Assal in Djibouti and the Don Juan Pond in Antarctica, which can reach salt levels over 10 times that of the oceans. The Dead Sea is extreme, but not the king. Speaking of Antarctica, number 15 tackles one of the greatest icy misunderstandings. Antarctica hides one of the world's largest mountain ranges, the Gamburtsev Mountains, completely buried beneath the ice sheet. Peaks taller than the Alps remain invisible under miles of ice. Antarctica isn't a flat frozen plate. It's a hidden world of valleys, cliffs, and buried landscapes. From hidden mountains to hidden earthquakes, number 14 is ready to erupt. Despite being a peaceful-looking island, Iceland sits on the mid-Atlantic ridge, one of Earth's most active tectonic boundaries. It experiences thousands of earthquakes every year, Most too small to feel. Lava, quakes, geysers. Iceland is literally splitting apart. Now let's ride all the way to the rainforest with number 13, where a river's reputation gets smoothed out. The Amazon may appear serene in photos, but it has violent rapids, hidden whirlpools, flooded forests, and crocodile-ridden tributaries. Many sections are impossible to cross safely. The Amazon isn't a gentle giant. It's a wild liquid jungle. But rivers hold another myth hostage. That brings us to number 12. Maps trick people into thinking south means down, but rivers follow only one rule: gravity. The Nile flows north, the Amazon flows east, and some rivers even reverse direction depending on seasons. Direction doesn't matter, elevation does. Speaking of maps, let's tear apart number 11. One of the biggest misconceptions ever printed. The Mercator projection distorts everything. Greenland looks the size of Africa. It's not even close. Europe looks bigger than South America. Canada looks gigantic. In reality, countries near the equator are much larger than they appear. Every flat map lies in some way, because you can't flatten a sphere without warping it. Now that maps are exposed, let's dive into the ocean itself with number 10. People imagine the Pacific as a perfect sheet of deep blue, but this ocean is anything but uniform. The Pacific changes color constantly, shifting from turquoise to emerald green to inky blue depending on depth, sunlight, and massive plankton blooms that stretch for hundreds of kilometers. These blooms are so vibrant they can even be seen from space. The ocean isn't one color. It's a living, shifting canvas painted by life itself. And if the ocean can fool your eyes, wait until you hear number 9, where a frozen island uses its name to fool the world. Greenland might sound like a lush emerald land, but it's actually 80% covered in ice. A frozen giant hiding under a misleading name. The green parts exist only along the coasts, where tiny settlements cling to the edges of the island. Historians believe Greenland was partly marketing, an attempt to attract Norse settlers. The name stuck, and so did the confusion. But Greenland isn't the only place people misunderstand. Let's zoom into number 8, where a famous US city gets far more credit than it deserves. New York is the loudest, busiest, most iconic American city, but not the biggest by land area. Cities in Alaska like Sitka and Juneau cover far more ground, stretching across forests, mountains, and coastline that New York could never match. New York is the biggest in influence, not in size. It's a giant of culture, not geography. And speaking of giants, number 7 exposes another illusion. One created by maps themselves. Alaska is the largest US state, but the size you see on maps is wildly exaggerated. The Mercator projection stretches northern regions, making Alaska look as big as half the US mainland. In reality, it's large, but not the monster you see in classrooms. Map distortion inflates its shape, tricking your eyes into believing it dwarfs everything else. From icy illusions to northern nations, let's step into number 6, where an entire country gets frozen in myth. Canada is famous for its winter storms, but the country is far more diverse than people think. It has warm beaches, deserts in British Columbia, wine regions in Ontario, and summers that hit 40 degrees Celsius. Most Canadians live in the temperate south, where 4 seasons come and go like anywhere else. Canada isn't a frozen wasteland. It's a climate spectrum stretched across a massive landmass. And now we cross the Atlantic toward number 5, where Europe itself gets misrepresented. Europe may be famous for its peninsulas. Iberian, Italian, Balkan, Scandinavian. But the continent itself is part of a giant connected landmass. Only a small portion is island territory. The majority of Europe is a continuous extension of Asia, forming the supercontinent Eurasia. Europe isn't a scattered chain. It's one solid block on the world map. Now let's zoom in on a city that literally sits between worlds. Number 4. Istanbul is one of the few cities on Earth that sits in 2 continents at once. The Bosphorus Strait slices the city into a European half and an Asian half, making it a cultural bridge between East and West. Markets, mosques, neighborhoods, half in Europe, half in Asia, all in the same city. From continents to coastlines, let's move into number 3, where the Great Lakes get a reality check. Lake Superior is enormous, but not the world's champion. The Caspian Sea holds that title, covering nearly 5 times more surface area. And by volume, even Lake Baikal in Russia leaves Superior far behind. Superior dominates North America, but globally, it has rivals that eclipse its size. Now we head south to redraw borders with number 2. The map might look simple, but the geography isn't. Large parts of Mexico stretch west of the US, and cities like San Diego, Tucson, and even Orlando lie farther south than many northern Mexican regions. The US-Mexico border angles, twists, and bends, making south of the border more of a phrase than a fact. And finally, we wrap up this segment with number 1, where a calm sea hides a subtle truth. The Mediterranean does have tides. They're just small. Because the sea is mostly enclosed and connected to the Atlantic through a narrow gateway, the tidal range stays low, sometimes just a few centimeters. The calm appearance fools many, but the pull of the ocean still reaches its shores, quietly but consistently. That's 25 myths destroyed. And the world already looks different, doesn't it? But here's the real question. Which myth did you grow up believing? Drop your answer below. Smash the like button and subscribe for the next chapter of Hidden Geography.